Hello, welcome to Dundrell's podcast. I'm your host Justin. Today we're reviewing a fantasy novel. This time we're reviewing The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. This is from 1989, published by Daw Books, DAW. And this is book one of the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy, right? Which I honestly got this book by mistake years ago. It was when the Shanara Chronicles TV show first came out, and I was in, I went to my local bookstore, which actually it's not local. It's like it's like the town next over, but I go there because I like the store and they have a good book collection, right? And I totally forgot the name of the author and the book I wanted to get, which was The Sword of Shanara by Terry Brooks. And I bought this thinking it was that, which I was totally wrong, right? And I didn't read this book till years later, right? Which was like this month when I for some reason I don't know if it was the snowstorms or anything, but usually I get in a mood to read fantasy during November. But this year I wasn't really in the mood until recently after I hurt my back and I was doing a lot of soaking in the bath to to heal my back, which you put Epsom salt in the bath and you soak, and it's supposed to help aching pains and stuff. Which my back is mostly back to normal after soaking in the bath an hour a day, right? So I read this book and I gotta say I loved it, and it's hard to say if this is supposed to be for young people or adults, because the book very much feels like a young adult story until the very end, where it gets very, very dark and extremely graphic and violent, right? Which the story of this book, right? Which it's 700. The main story is 766 pages, and the rest is just glossary about the names and places, right? Which one of the appendix, sorry, right? And the story is about Simon, who is scullion in this castle called the Hayholt, sorry, which is the seat of power of the kingdom of Ostenard, which is ruled by King Prester John, who's 90 years old and is dying, and has two sons to succeed him. The older one, Elias, and the younger one, Joshua, who lost his hand defending the wife of his brother, who was killed by raiders or something like that, right? And the setting of this series is basically you have this kingdom that used to belong to the elves, which are called the Sylphi, who were genocided by man, pretty much, or the Rimmermen, which are basically this world's version of the Vikings, right? Which were defeated, and the kingdom is ruled by the Erkenlanders, right? Which populate Alcenard, and there's other kingdoms, right? Who all swore allegiance to the High King of Alcenard, which is Prester John, who dies, and after he's dead, his son takes over, Elias, who is basically the villain of this, who's one of the villains of this book, right? There's going to be minor spoilers, right? Most of the story is, the main character is is Simon, who is like 14 at the start of the book, right? Who's like orphan, who becomes the apprentice of this wizard, which is not exactly clear if he was a wizard in the beginning of the book, called Dr. Morganus, who turns out to be part of this league of wizards called the League of the Scroll, whose job is to protect the kingdom of Ostenard from the Sylphi, right? Which are the elves who are splintered into two factions. One of the factions is evil and wants to wipe out man and reclaim Ostenard, and the other faction just wants to be left alone, right? They're like the wood elves and the high elves, kind of. Um, but like the high elves in this book are like evil and dark and white, where the other elves are like gold skinned and they have like brightly colored hair. Like one elf has like red hair, and like the other elf is like green and black. Uh, yeah, a lot of unnatural colors. So like I don't want to spoil too much about the book, but like basically the book um, follows our main character, while our main character Simon, who's kind of lazy, who may or may not be. It's hinted that he might be somebody of importance, like his father may have been somebody, right? Who unwillingly becomes this like who unwillingly goes on this journey to help Joshua against his older brother Elias, who has been tricked into forming an alliance with the evil Sylphi called the Norns, who want to wipe out humanity and like take over Ostenard. And you have this evil warlock called Prydes, who like orchestrated the whole thing, right? Who they let you know right away that Prydes is evil, not just by how he looks. He's a fat, bald, hairless dude with red robes, who's supposed to be a monk, and like one of the first evil things he does, while Simon is like working as like a want like kind of what would you call it? Like he's basically serving wine to all the nobles on like Elias's coronation. You see Prydes kill like a puppy, right? Who was like begging for scraps under the table, right? Which was totally Simon's fault, by the way. That's one of the problems of the book, is Simon's a bit of an idiot, right? And he's kind of lazy at times, right? Yeah, so like the book, I would say it starts off really slow and like no, like the first like the first 100 and like 70 or so pages, it's very slow until like the action starts, where like the conflict between Elias and Joshua begins, which the first 170 pages is basically just Simon's life in the Hayholt, which is the name of the like capital castle, right? And like he's forced to flee the castle and goes on this journey where he meets up with this troll named Benepik and his steed, which is a gray wolf called Yuntaka, right? And they go on this journey trying to get to Joshua's castle and Neglamund, which means the nail fort, right? On the way, they meet this boy, which turns out to be a girl, called Malcassius, who turns out to be a girl. I'm not going to say who he turns out to be, right? But yeah, like that old like cliche in fantasy where the one boy friend, the one friend of the main character who was a boy turns out to be a girl, like that old cliche, man. That you've seen a lot of English literature, right? But after a certain point, like most of the story is just our characters journeying to Megalomon, and then the last 200 pages of the book is just our group of characters going on a journey looking for magic swords to fight King Elias's evil army, right? Who wields the evil sword Storm King, right? Right? Who was created by the Dark Lord of this book, which is an evil, long dead evil prince, elf prince called Inaluki, right? Who gave his sword to Elias, which is corrupting him, which makes him a pawn of the Norns, which is the evil elves, right? And like while that's going on, you have battles between Elias and Joshua's forces, and the book ends with kind of like a cliffhanger, which I don't like at all. And then there turns out to be like there's also a dragon at the end of the book, and there's also other fantasy creatures in this book. You have the giants, and you have these monsters that are straight out of Berserk called the Buken, or are also known as the Diggers, which are very much like a combination of the things from the Max comic book and the monsters from this horror fantasy, this horror western movie from 2004 I almost reviewed, called The Burrowers, which are these monsters, human-like insect monsters that dig through the earth and will, like, attack people in their camps, right? Like black or white hands. Sometimes they're black or they're white, depending on the description of the book. It's not 100% sure. Will come out from the earth to grab and claw at you, man. Which they're very horrifying, and they're in the book twice, right? I gotta say, I really enjoyed the book. It starts off really slow, and there's like points in the book. There was like a point in the book before, like where Simon meets up with Benepic, where he's homeless for a while, and that was very like that was very, that point in the book was very hard to read because it was very boring, and like the character was like very unlikable at that point, right? But besides from that, aside from the fact that the book starts off slow and the main character is kind of like not very likable at times, and he's very dumb, and he becomes like this Naruto character where he's supposed to be like he's supposed to be this character who's like at the bottom tier, like nobody, right? Who becomes who's obviously destined for great things, right? Which kind of like contradicts the underdog kind of character he's supposed to be. But I besides from that, I really enjoyed the book, right? And I think if you're a fan of like fantasy, like adventure fantasy, but like also are into battles and stuff, you'll enjoy this too. And like you have like George R. R. Martin and the guy who created the Aragon books say that this series inspired them for their own fantasy series, right? So that so that's very high. You got like you got like very high, like status writers recommending this book to people, right? So I really enjoyed this book, and if I were to give this a rating at 8 out of 10, I can't wait to get the other two books and review those. Though I think I wanna read either The Eye of the World or Sword of Shanara next. I'm also thinking of checking out Terry Goodkind's book series, The Legend of the Seeker, uh, which a lot of people hate that series because, though from what I've heard about it, it sounds awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, this weekend I'm going to try to get, um, I'm going to try to pick up either like Sword of Shanara or Wizard's First Rule. And if I can't get either of those, then my next fantasy book review is going to be The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, which is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. I've already read this book, but I wouldn't mind reading it again, right? Which, love that fantasy art cover. Which, I was at the grocery store, and I saw the reprint of The Eye of the World, and the new cover they have looks effing terrible compared to this, man. I really hate modern covers where they get rid of the beautiful fantasy art and then, like, replace with generic bullshit. Like the new cover is just a white cover with like some tint of color, and then there's like a white bird, which I supposed to be. I suppose. Sorry, I'm guessing it's supposed to be like a heron because the one character has a heron marked sword. But yeah. Also, if you're wondering if this cover is a spoiler, yes, it is. But I'm not going to spoil whether or not that character lives or dies. But yeah. Read the book. You find out like halfway through the book, right? But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and